I recently realized something about myself that's apparently common to other ISTPs, which is that when it comes to asking for advice, which in itself is kind of rare for an ISTP to do, but I'm basically not asking for advice in the form of a what should I do kind of question, but rather I'm looking for a specific piece of information that I'm missing from people who might have that information, people who are more experienced or knowledgeable about that subject than I am, who can tell me the information that I'm looking for so that I can then make my own informed decision. Because the way it works for me is by the time I come asking people for advice, I've already spent quite a bit of time thinking about the problem, looking up information on Google or whatever, trying to figure out on my own how I should approach this situation. And well, I've come to a point where I'm just, missing certain bits of information and hoping that other people have more experience in the area. And so I have a specific question that I'm asking. And yet that doesn't stop other people from basically ignoring the question I asked and giving me their own forms of advice however they see fit. And well, I'm here to tell you that when an ISTP asks you for advice, pay attention to the actual question they asked and answer that question. Because if you tell them anything other than an answer to that question, you're just wasting your time. Even if it's obvious to you that you know a lot more about the situation than I do, and that I seem to be asking all the wrong questions, and you have like this great advice that's going to help me a lot more than the answer to my questions, I'm not going to be interested in any of that until I get an answer to my questions. Because the thing is, even if you know perfectly well what you're talking about, I don't know that. Remember, by the time the ISTP comes to you looking for advice, they think they know exactly what they're looking for. And so, if you know more about their problem than they do, it's up to you to demonstrate that first before dishing out that advice. And that may be frustrating for you, especially if you're an NI-dominant, like an INTJ or INFJ, and you want to go straight to the heart of the actual problem and bypass the ISTP's superficial question or narrow line of thinking or whatever. But in order for the ISTP to pay attention to what you're saying, I have to know, A, that you know what you're talking about, and B, that you fully understand what my problem is, what I'm trying to accomplish. Because unfortunately, the thing is, a lot of people who respond to my request for advice don't know what they're talking about. And that's the other thing I want to talk about. If you don't know the answer to the ISTP's question, don't bother. Like sometimes I'll have a question, I'll post it either online or I might ask a group of friends in real life, just to see if anyone knows the answer. And they'll respond even if they have no knowledge of the subject, just like they feel like they want to get involved and be helpful or something. So they'll act like they're brainstorming along with me. So they'll be like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. Oh, maybe you could try this, or maybe have you thought about this, or maybe their website has this information, and No, I'm not brainstorming. I'm asking a specific question. If you happen to know the answer, great. If not, then shut up. Or sometimes I'll be trying to figure out if a certain idea of mine is a good idea or a bad idea. And so I might be asking things like, what are the costs involved? Is it dangerous? Will I break something in the process? What are the risks? Will I get in trouble for it? And so, and then some people will respond with, who clearly know nothing about the situation. They'll respond with like, oh, I'm sure it'll be fine. Just go for it. Yeah, it sounds like fun. Just do it. What, do they think I need like some kind of motivation to overcome my fears or something? No, I'm asking because I'm trying to see if they have any specific knowledge about the situation that I don't have. I know it sounds like fun. That's why I'm asking about it in the first place. And sometimes people will give me advice that's somewhat related to the subject, but has nothing to do with the question I'm asking. You know, like one time I was figuring out stuff for my Hawaii trip, and I was asking people. I don't even remember. It was either something to do with like car rental rates or parking rates or something like that. And you know, my ESTJ friend was like, "Oh, you're going to Oahu. Oh, you got to try to eat at this place. You got to try this." And then like, no, I'm not looking for places to eat. I'm not even thinking about that right now. I'm looking for, you know, car rental rates or whatever. And you have to understand that while you think you may have been in a similar situation to what I'm talking about, and you have good advice for, you know, what to do in that situation, I might have completely different goals and objectives from what you would have. And so, you know, just pay attention to the question I'm asking. And so for those who are knowledgeable about the thing I'm asking about, and you have like some actual helpful advice, you have to convince me that you're not one of those idiots who just wants to voice an unhelpful opinion. Because otherwise, if you just start spouting out advice that's not a direct answer to my question, whatever it is, I'm just going to ignore it, you know, sometimes to my own detriment. So I'll give an example. One time, I went looking for some advice about domestic abuse, just in order to help the family of a friend. And so I went on a domestic abuse forum with a certain question. And the domestic abuse experts on that forum immediately realized, rightfully so, that I was asking all the wrong questions. So like, you know, I briefly described the family situation, and it was something like, the family is stuck in this abusive situation because of this one problem, so how can they solve this one problem to get out of the abusive situation? And, you know, the abuse experts were trying to tell me like, well, you need to familiarize yourself with the dynamics of abuse because you're a third party, you're not directly involved. And so, you know, they directed me to like these links. So they're basically trying to give me some advice that would actually be helpful to me. But see, the thing is, as far as I was concerned, they weren't answering my questions. And so I was getting frustrated, and I was just trying to redirect, you know, the conversation back to my actual questions, whereas they were trying to be helpful in ways that they knew would actually be helpful. And then, you know, eventually, after some arguing back and forth, I got frustrated and I was like, nah, you people are useless, and then I quit the group. So obviously it was their forum, and, you know, they run things according to their own rules. But my point is, if they had at least attempted to answer my initial questions and therefore demonstrated to me that they knew what they were talking about and they understood where I was coming from, I might have been more willing to listen to their actual advice. So yeah, what it comes down to is, if an ISTP asks for advice, just answer the question, and then you can take it from there. And if you don't know the answer, then just shut up. That's it. And it might even be... yeah! The ISTP, by the time they think they... even if you know more about that subject than I obviously do, that's like really loud, isn't it? Okay, I'll just wait for the rain to let up a bit before I continue.